I have done it. The monster is alive. After 1000 failed deck attempts, I have created something playable. Presenting DragonMill, or at least that's what I named it. It uses 3 different engines together: Dragonmates, Paleozoics, and Rottets. It all starts with Laundry Dragonmate, milling cards to my graveyard, and a lot of my cards, such as my traps when milled, also has a graveyard effect. And Paleozoic traps can come back as a level 2 monster to my field. Combine it with the floating abilities of Rottets, and you have a very sticky control deck. Fill the board with monsters, and can only become stronger over time as your graveyard gets bigger and bigger. This deck actually has performed surprisingly well in my testings, and certainly has the legs to challenge the top tier meta contenders in the normal and rare event. Now, we are going to go over every card in detail. Then, I'll give you some gameplay, and after that I'll show you some few highlights of the gameplay with some tips, and you really don't want to miss those. Finally, I'll evaluate the deck's performance and give some suggestions moving forward. Let's begin with the card by card. First, I have my Dragonmate. Laundry Dragonmate is the core of the deck. When it's normal or special summoned, you can send top 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard. And Nurse Dragonmate, when normal or special, can target another Dragonmate monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which is going to be Laundry Dragonmate, and this would also trigger Laundry Dragonmate's effect. Also, both Dragonmates can tag out to the level 7 versions at the start of the battle phase. We have Ornus, which has a crit effect of discarding itself to summon another Dragonmate from your hand as long as it's level 4 or less. We have the Nod Jarl, which has an effect to discard it to shuffle a monster from your opponent's graveyard back into the deck, but you usually just use it as a body, which is why I'm only playing 2 of it. The Big Dragons also has the second effect of tagging out into the small Dragonmates at the end of the battle phase, which should once again trigger the abilities of Nurse and Laundry. But do bear in mind that these effects are once per turn. Then we have the Paleozoics. The best Paleozoic is the Dynamextus, which targets a face-up card on the field, discard 1 card, and then banish it. And all Paleozoics, while it's in the graveyard and a trap card is activated, can summon itself as a level 2 monster, which you can then use it to link or exceed summon. Canadia is a Book of Moon which targets a card and flips it to face-down defense position, and Oleonoides allows you to destroy a spell and trap. Also, let's have a look at the Rockets. While all Rockets has an effect that triggers when it's targeted by a link monster, that rarely will come up. What matters is that their second ability, which is to summon a rocket monster from your deck when it's destroyed at the end of the turn. We have Shell Rocket Dragon and an Extra Rocket Dragon, as well as a single Exploder Rocket Dragon, because it's a level 7 and it can also be summoned by the effects of rockets. As Dragonmate dragons are also level 7, this can be used to exceed. Then let's take a look at some of our staples. So Soldier Dragons is actually a really good card for this deck, because when your opponent activates a card effect, crit effect, you can special summon a level 2 or lower dragon from your deck. This allows you to summon either of the Dragonmates, or either of the Rocket Dragons from your deck to your field as a crit effect. This way you can either get your Dragonmate engine going, or summon some rockets so they can float into more rockets, and that way you can keep your field presence. We also have Compulse, which is a really good trap card in this meta, which targets a monster on the field and returns it to your hand. And I also have Forbidden Chalice to negate effects, which can come up against certain decks. In the extra deck we have rank 2s, which can be made with Paleozoics, and if you do, Paleozoics will go back to the graveyard instead of being banished. So the Phantom Knights of the Cursed Javelin can target a monster your opponent controls, change its attack to 0 and negate its effects. This is a great card to get over monsters that you won't be able to otherwise. We also have Crumble Logos, the number 45, and you can also detach 1 card to negate a monster on the field. Now this is a little more conditional compared to the first one, however this card does have higher attack points natively, so I think it's good to play one of it too. For rank 7s we have Dark Armed, the Dragon of Annihilation, and it has the ability to detach a material and then target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it, and then banish 1 card from your graveyard. Although it cannot attack for the rest of the turn when it uses this effect, you can attack first and then use this effect after, and also this effect is not a once per turn, so you can detach 2 materials to destroy 2 cards as well. I also have number 74 as a more defensive option, because when it's targeted, you can detach 1 card, negate the activation, and if you do destroy that card, then also destroy one more card on the field if you like. This card is really good at protecting itself and can be hard for your opponents to deal with. Then we have the Link Monsters. First I have the Protodragon and the Prodleo. These are my Link Monsters that can be made with Paleozoics. And Protodragon has a slightly higher attack points, where the Prodleo has an effect that might come up, so I think it's reasonable to play one of each. With any effect monsters, you can make Pentastack, which allows your linked monsters to inflict piercing damage to your opponent. And the Geonator Transverser, a staple for this format, which can really punish your opponents who is not playing around zone placements. I also have Booster Dragon, which specifically requires 2 rockets, but this is a way you can trigger the effects of your rockets, because you can target one other face-up monster on the field and give it 500 attack and defense. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this activation. Furthermore, if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one other dragon monster in your graveyard and special summon it, so this will float back into one of your rockets or your dragon mates if you wish. It could also float into another Link Monster as long as it's a dragon. Speaking of Dragon Link Monsters, we have our Link 3 Triple Burst Dragon, which can once per turn negate effects in the damage step, inflict piercing damage, and also tribute itself to summon a Link 2 or lower monster from your graveyard, and then special summon a level 4 or lower dragon from your hands. And you can use both these effects together, go into a Booster Dragon, summon a Rocket Dragon from your hand, and then activate Booster Dragon to trigger the Rocket Dragon's effect. Or you should kill your Booster Dragon, and with the Rocket Dragon and the Triple Burst Dragon you'll get back with the Rocket Dragon's effect, you can go into a Link 4 play. But before that, let's have a look at our other Link 3 Power Totalker. You can target one face up monster on the field and negate its effects, which is pretty good. And also, by tributing one card this card points to, its attack can become doubled, which can be really important depending on the situation. Finally, we have our boss monsters, our Link 4 A-Dave Dragon, which when it's summoned, if you use a dragon, it will inflict 100 damage to your opponent for every dragon in your graveyard. And this can really close out games very quickly. It also has 3000 attack. And finally we have Double Bite Dragon. While this is a Link 3, since we don't have any linked ones in deck, this might as well be a Link 4, which it requires 2 Link monsters to make. Gains attack equal to the combined Link ratings of the monsters used for its Link summon times 300, and it is unaffected by monster effects except for Link monsters and can't be destroyed by battle except with a Link monster. So pretty hard for your opponent to out this unless they are also playing Link monsters, which is possible, but can really win games in certain matchups. And with that, let's get into some gameplay. And we are here ready for our first match against Metalfoes, and what can I say except get ready to see a lot of Metalfoes in this meta, because it's seen as one of the best decks, if not the best deck, for the normal and rare event. So you expect to see a lot of Metalfoes matchups, and my recordings today will also reflect that. They will go to the regular Metalfoes teams, go into Link Monster and the Fusion Monster. The ordering seems a bit off, but I think this is overall what you expect them to do. So we normal summon a Laundry and then mill 3 cards, and since we mill the trap cards we can special summon the Nurse, and then that can special summon another Laundry from our graveyard, and then we make Geonator Transverser. Now, Geonator Transverser can switch controls of the monsters they point to, so this way we can steal their fusion monsters, and then we'll set our traps and pass. We are going to scale their Metalfoes and try to get into more bodies from their graveyard and their extra deck. Unfortunately, this is not really going to cut it. And in our turn, we can start with the Nurse, summon back the Laundry, activate the Laundry to mill more cards, and then go into a Triple Burst Dragon, and in battle phase, charge out the Laundry, and this should give us enough damage to close out the game. It's game 2, and what are we doing up against? Metalfoes once again, although this time it is FA Metalfoes. Unfortunately, I'm in the opposite side of the recording, but this should still be fine as well. They will go into a Metalfoes combo, destroying their cards in order to set more Metalfoes traps. Luckily for us, they don't have any FA spells, so that FA handroll match is going to be stuck at level 4. During their end phase, I am going to summon Laundry to start the milling early. Then I'll summon Nurse and then get back the other Laundry that I milled, and then activate this effect to mill more cards. Then I'll go into battle phase and head out into a bigger Dragon Mates. He'll go into battle and hit over their monsters. They will activate their trap, summoning 2 Metalfoes from deck, which is pretty strong. But no matter, because we can just hit over them with our DragonMills. They will activate their effect, get more cards to their hand, then we will Xyz summon into a Dart Armed. Now we will use its effect twice to pop both scales that they control, so I'm hoping to stop them from pendulum summoning, but unfortunately since they're playing Metalfoes, this is going to be unlikely. Because they just draw another card and then they will banish both their traps to add 2 more cards from their extra deck to their hand. Which they will fail, and then they will activate the field spell and then destroy it to set another Metalfoes spell from their deck, and then activate the field spell to add another field spell from deck to hand. Then they will do this again, destroy the field spell, set another Metalfoes card, and then with the field spell they'll add the other field spell back to their hand. Then they will draw for a pendulum summon, and then link into a crush ship, and then they will activate their spell for a fusion summon. Now this is where I need you to watch it, because this is where I'll activate Compulse and send the fusion back to the extra deck. Now, since the fusion is no longer on the field, Crush Ship is not going to resolve, and therefore they won't get the revival effect. They can still go into a Link 3 however, so we'll see a Berserker of the 10-year coming down and hitting over the Dark Arms. Then they will pass the turn back to us, and I think we can just close the game from here. We'll start with a Nurse, reviving Laundry to Mill, and we'll go into a Phantom Knight to swap the Cursed Javelin, reducing their attack points to 0. And then activating our trap, we'll get back the Laundry, go into battle phase and head out both our Dragon mates for the bigger ones, and then just go into battle and hit for game. This really shows off the capabilities of closing games with Dragon mates, as you can easily kill your opponent out of nowhere with big Dragon mate attacks. Now, let's go over a few tips that I want to give to everyone. And this will be my major tip number 1. Play around Geonator Transverser. Geonator Transverser can switch control of your monsters with your opponent's monster if your monster is in the middle or the leftmost zone. So be wary of those zones and don't put anything strong in your leftmost or middle zone if possible. And this is my tip number 2. Since we are going to see a lot of Metalfoes, you need to remind that Crush Ship will not resolve if it's no longer pointing to a fusion monster at the end of its resolution. So if you can remove the fusion monster before Crush Ship resolves, you can stop Crush Ship from activating entirely, and this is an important tip when dueling against Metalfoes. Those were some good games, and now let's take a moment to reflect upon our deck. Overall, the deck looks pretty solid. It is a lot of fun to play, and this is because it requires both skill and luck. There's a huge variety in what it can do, and it can certainly hold its own against other advantage-oriented decks. Unfortunately, its inconsistency can also become a downside, as sometimes things may simply not go your way. But I think it's still worth a try. This deck certainly could use some additional testing, and it is open for you to tweak it. You may want to change some of the spell traps, or remove the gadgets altogether, so don't be afraid to make some changes. Thank you for watching this far, and for subscribing to the channel too. I've come so far, and it's all thanks to your support. Best of luck in the Normal and Rare event, and do come talk to me in my next stream this Saturday. But you can also contact me through Discord, which is, as always, linked in the description. Here's hoping to see you in another video.